It was $6.5.
All right, we'll call
The time change.
May 6, 2024 Management Services Committee to order. Got you. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll do it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Are there any public comments? Seeing none, we'll start with discussion and action on Grant Street drainage project. I guess we have a slide presentation.
Lauren Grover, the city of Waupika. During our last month's council meeting, the mayor had presented this slideshow for everybody, and Mr. Barr had brought up that it should have been shown sooner, so we felt that we'd bring it here and let you guys see it firsthand. I apologize. I'm trying to be transparent. I think everybody was aware of the issues. Just trying to point out some of the larger concerning issues here that need to be addressed. We should be able to sit.
And then you should be able to use Amanda's mouse across the table if that's okay, so you can see what he's doing. You would maybe suggest it? Let's see.
So I think this has been a topic for quite a few years now. I think everybody's aware of that. So here's a picture of the cul-de-sac being flooded out. It starts behind the homes on the east side of the cul-de-sac, flows to the west. The road floods, and then the drainage water flows through the west and northwest. The severity of the incidents like this started happening about 4 years ago. I feel like this slideshow may be a couple of years old. I'm not sure exactly when this was put together, so there's a report coming up that's more like 6 or 7 years old. So this has been going on for quite a while. We, being the mayor, they've owned their house since 1997. Water's never stayed around for weeks or months until recently, being the last 4 or 5 years. So this area was drained properly up until 4 or 5 years ago, more like 6 or 7 years ago now, I think. But as you can see, the entire road is flooded out. So in my opinion, we have several issues. We have issues outside the cul-de-sac on the county property there, and then we also have some drainage issues within the cul-de-sac. But I think the step that you guys are wanting to take, along with the city, resolves the drainage outside the cul-de-sac on the outside of the homes, and then the next step would be to work on a larger drainage coming out of the curb drains. So here's just another picture of rainfall. The water originates from the county property on the east side and came between 110 and 112 Lover's Lane. So I think it's back feeding off the county property into parts of the subdivision as well. You see some of the water flowing here. It's not the greatest picture, but he said there is a video. See, now we're outside the cul-de-sac coming through the yards. We've got water flowing. A lot of water. And to my understanding, this happens during just a heavy rain, not during our flooding seasons. That was a question that was brought up in our council meeting last month as well. So at any given time, the backup water in the area can have adverse effects on 9 to 12 homes. I think or 9 to 11, I think there's 12 homes in that area. Note that the water that's stressing these yards on the originated from the county land on the east side of the subdivision. Please note the flow current of the water from this video, as you see, is a pretty good video of the water here, which will support the statement being made. Plus that emphasizes that this is more than a puddling issue, because I think that's been what others have stated, is we just have a puddle behind the mayor's house, and I keep stressing to a lot of people, it's more than just the mayor that lives there.
Excuse me, when you get up there to that, stop it when you get to that fence there. Now, where is that?
That I wanna say is on like the northeast end of the cul-de-sac.
Okay,
So it's between, I guess you can look up the address, between 110 and 112 Lovers Lane.
Okay, will you continue, please? So that's flowing out towards, where's that going? When he was back there, or the video was back there, where's that, which direction is that going? No,
The railroad tracks, I think.
that's going towards the tracks,
It might be, that's what I.
It's,
back there by that gate, that fence.
yeah, I don't say what is one, let me look that address up just so we're all clear on it.
Well, I won't recognize the address, but I just wonder, that water, where's that flowing to?
It has to be flowing to the north side of the subdivision or the cul-de-sac there. I believe it's gonna be flowing up along there, and that's some issue that's,
It's around that area.
oh no, I'm wrong, that is more on the east side, Lovebridge, so that might be what's contributing the water along here, a back and forth issue, whether it's flowing one way or the other, but it's like, this is 110, 12, so if you can mark that map, just so.
Yes, go ahead.
And then-
Not recognized.
So it's a two can house, that's 110, that's 112.
So it's
So
coming
that-
out of here going this way?
So we all see there's a lot of water along the county property on the east side of Lovebridge. It's coming from there.
I understand, but I wanna know where that's, when it gets out here, where's it
I'm
going?
assuming at some point it starts working its way toward the tracks because it's got nowhere else to go. But there's a section of farm
And-
field there that,
And the tracks are this way?
Yes.
yeah,
This is north?
yeah.
The tracks are about up in here, I think.
Yeah, there's,
And-
you got the farm, section of farm field, then you have Martin's office,
Right,
and then the tracks.
and this is that section of farm field here, right?
Looks like they've been doing some digging there, west of.
So we had a water main break, there's an 8-inch water main that comes from like AutoZone straight under the tracks toward Lovebridge and then it cuts out to 9th Street. So yeah, that's why you guys lost water there a couple weeks ago.
Does it go under the tracks?
This
The drainage or the?
Yeah.
No, that goes east and west along TP&W's tracks. So I've been trying to work with TP&W. They're not real responsive. I've been wanting to clean that ditch out. Unfortunately, that ditch does lay pretty flat. But I think if we can at least clean it out and get it shaped and possibly at some point put in more of a concrete base to where it'll be easier to maintain, it'd be ideal, but first step is getting TPW to work with us to at least get it cleaned out and the trees removed and what's in there flowing.
This area right here on this map, is that all wet?
So it tends to be wet all the way up through here, yeah. And then, you know, the puddles that a lot of people refer to, where you see more off of Grant Street.
Okay.
So you see the red light on the lift station back in here. So that's another issue with me being geared more toward the sanitary water and stormwater. This poses an issue with us flooding out that property and surrounding area. It's flooding out our lift station. And at some point, we're going to be backing up stormwater and sewage in the homes in that area. So this lift station picks up all the homes in Loveridge and then discharges it out to Grant Street before it goes into a gravity sewer system. So, and as I've pressed the city, that's going to, it's going to cost them a lot of money in the future and back up a basement that's finished. So here's another picture. It's kind of hard to see, but as the backup water started staying around for weeks or months at a time, there's another issue that arose, mosquitoes. I think you guys all are aware of what standing water does. So here is the start of that report. Was done by Tyson Engineering. He said it was done 6 or 7 years ago. Since Tyson, it's been long enough. Tyson now is called Robinson Engineering, so they've changed hands. So the report's kind of hard to read from here, but in a nutshell, it states that Loveridge is not located within a wetland, and same with FEMA, that it's not located in a special flood hazard area. There's been some talks of Loveridge should never have been built because it was built on floodplain. That is not true. So this report was done 6 or 7 years ago by an engineering firm. This is also part of that report. Highlighted area, there are 3 curb inlets in Loveridge connected to 12-inch storm sewer. Based on the tributary area, these curb inlets, the existing 12-inch sewer is undersized. So I think once we get the drainage on the outside of Loveridge fixed, we get the tracks cleaned and that ditch line flowing again, and at that point, I think the city would look at increasing the storm sewer from those inlets out to the track edge with a larger, probably 18-inch. So we have several issues, but you have to start somewhere. Where we're at here. So also part of the report here, the existing storm sewer system and overland flow paths are not sufficient to convey the stormwater runoff efficiently without creating drainage concerns. So just pretty much stating that it can't naturally flow off that water. So between the undersized pipe and the surrounding area and holding water, there's multiple issues here. It's a matter of which step you take first. And I think that this drainage would be the start to where we're draining off all the land outside the subdivision. I think it's a great idea to team with the county. It makes no sense for the county to do a project around the courthouse and then the city to come back to a whole nother project that he may not be able to tie into if elevations don't work out. So just trying to utilize all funds the first time. That's all I have. Any questions?
Lots 2 and 3, which ones are those on the maps? Do you know?
Lots 2 and 3.
Oh, it refers to.
Just on the,
Like,
on your left side of the road.
okay.
That's what, they're numbered on this picture.
So that's why they put in the storm inlets and the curb gutter there. Unfortunately, they undersized it, so whether people don't like it or not, that's why you need code and building inspectors to make sure that piping's being put in the way it's designed and contractors aren't undersizing things and cut
So
corners.
it's these two. Because this,
So at some point in the future, the city wants, you could want to make that.
One and two?
The curb outlets.
So on the north side, there's that 12-inch pipe that runs in between those, I don't know which houses those are. And it drains off into a ditch that gravity flows into the ditch that's along the railroad.
Yeah.
I think it'd be ideal to increase that pipe size as well, but we need to get the ditch along the railroad cleaned out first, otherwise
Yeah.
it's not gonna do you any good. So I think this, then the railroad, and then that would come last.
The ditch along the railroad, we have to get the railroad.
So I
To go
have to
along
get,
with
I
that?
have to get track safety,
Yeah.
and inspectors along there to work with us. Unfortunately, TP&W is a very small railroad, so they don't have the manpower, so we've been going back and forth on who's going to pay for that track safety flaggers. Hopefully we can get that worked out this summer. Last summer, we started on it late and we kind of got shut down because they didn't like how close we were to their track, so. But that is on my to-do list this year, is to get that ditch cleaned out.
So let's talk money on this project.
So I think we received, I think the county received about a $50,000 proposal. I think it was 47, I don't have the numbers in front of me now.
46,223.
And that was only with
412
6 inlets. And I think we were looking at needing more like 10 by the time we got through the outer part of Loveridge and then over on the county portion. So I had rounded that up to 50, knowing it, looking at some of the other proposals, it was about $1,000 per inlet.
Right.
So just kind of doing some quick, math there, I just rounded that to 50. Our engineers had looked at the cost of the city doing the road crossing. And it was about 17,000, I think it was like 17,1. I just, for simplicity, I rounded it to 17. So that brought the project, 67,000. What we did is we split that half. So the county portion would be half of that at 33.5, the city would pick up the other half. And by that, we'll pay 16.5 to your guys' contractor, for their portion of their work, and then we would do the road crossing across Grant Street. And that includes the asphalt work.
The bid was bid to not include anything going across the road, so that was excluded to begin with.
Yeah, so
So that,
the idea was to keep the drain tile project at a minimum, with the idea that the city would assist by doing that portion as an offset to the overall
Right.
project cost.
but you're deducting that from the cost of the project, while that wasn't bid in the project.
Um,
And it's just minor things that we need to work out. but
Well,
I just
and
want
then-
to point it out that that was not.
And also you'll notice that the landscaping and seating wasn't part of that project,
Right.
because that can get pretty costly when you're outsourcing that and paying prevailing wages. So the city was gonna pick up the site restoration and landscaping as well, and I didn't even include that in the deduction, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little things we need to just make sure we're clear on who's
Yeah.
doing it.
So as I talked with John previously, the city would pick up the road crossing. We would take care of the landscaping and seating portion of it, just trying to keep this reasonable for the both parties, because let's face it, we're all stuck paying prevailing wages, and we get to be back to the $200,000 cost we all were looking at originally when we first started talking with engineering.
has anybody discussed, future maintenance? 'Cause I think no matter what we decide here, we need to have a intergovernmental agreement, because in 10 or 15 years, we're not gonna be here to say, oh yeah, that's what, so we need it in writing someplace.
So I think what we could do to assist is we could do the jetting and cleaning of it. You know, because we're gonna have leaves and things like that that plug up the inlets. Just, you know, the city's got a jetter, so we could jet that. I guess it would just be a matter of, since it's still on the county's property, is it still the county's tile or?
Right. And just thinking about it, I was thinking the county would take care of the county's part,
Mhm.
and the city would be responsible for what's within the right of way of the road,
Mhm.
because that's the work you're doing now anyway.
Yeah.
But we just need to get it in writing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the city would take ownership of the crossing since in our road, we're installing it. And then we could, you know, put in writing that we would assist with jetting, you know, maintaining it. I think this is a good opportunity for the city and the county to work together on something and show that we're all here in the same area.
We just want to get it in writing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so do
So in
you,
the future, they don't argue about
do
it.
you wanna have this drawn up, or do you want the city to have it drawn up, or?
I think we like to have our state attorney draw it up.
Okay, so if you could draw something up and then get it to us, we'll review it, and if there's any questions.
Well, we haven't
Concerns.
approved the project yet.
No, we haven't technically approved it.
So I guess, sorry,
One step at a time.
you
That's
already
right.
got it. It's-
Yeah. But we're moving in a positive direction, I feel.
I think everybody knows there's issues along this, you know, between the courthouse and along Love Bridge there. It's just how do you resolve it and how can you do it affordably? And I think this is a good opportunity.
One thing we need to remember here is that the bid that we have is based on the work being done when the tiling contractor has a, well, this is the month of May, we need to, whatever we're gonna do, we need to try and get it done to, we don't lose our place with the tiling contract.
That's why it's discussion and action on the agenda, so we can take action on it today if we need to, or want to.
We have 3 bids and we didn't take action on them and
Right. We,
satisfied at the request of the contractor.
well, it was set aside because we need to send it to Watsika for them to then come back to us. So, because we weren't gonna approve something that wasn't going to happen.
I think it was easier to get approval on the city side before you guys took your step forward that way.
So now we're ready to do whatever we can approve or not approve or whatever at this point, or we can continue discussing. I mean, I didn't want to cut off the
Do you think
discussion.
we need to bring the bids back in and look at them? I need them.
Yeah.
I got it right here.
Oh, okay,
You
you
do?
got it? Well, somebody's on the ball.
Yeah.
So, Hendricks Drainage was seemed to be the most reasonable one, and the ones that we were using for, our big,
They were the only ones that actually came out and showed the most interest as far as understanding the project.
right. And we've had Hendricks, do the major project on the county property. And so, and they also, didn't charge extra for additional liners, I believe.
Well, they only indicate 6 on there, so that's why
That was no charge, I think.
Well, they probably just.
the 6 was
figured it
no
in.
charge, but then anything after that, you're gonna have, looking at
Yeah.
the other bids, and it looked like it was about $1,000 per inlet to add.
So do we need more because they need to be spaced differently, or could they just?
Well, you
be
have,
made
you
bigger?
have some turns, and then the turn, you really need to put an inlet, so that way you can maintain it. I think we were doing,
They can also be a cleaner.
No, exactly, yeah, you jet through those and clean that pipe, so you need one on either side of the road, because you gotta transition, and it makes sense, that way you can pick up anything in the ditch way as well. And you got a couple turning around the courthouse, and we have a couple turns, cause it jogs out around, because Loveridge actually jogs out, so there's some turns there, and there was gonna be, I think, one along the way and one at the end, so it came out to be about 10. I think originally we were looking at 12 and we reduced it to 10.
Yes, yes. This is kind of a good time because they're, in all the areas that we're talking about, that's standing water. The one behind the new ward, I noticed they weren't able to mow, it was too bad.
And I think there's talks of tying in the drainage off the new moor to this as well, right?
Well, at least running it
Over that
over
area.
that way, if not directly tile.
So the total cost, you said after the county is like, 67,000.
Yeah, that was adding 4 risers, because the bid only has 6 risers on it, so.
So it would be a little bit more than this.
We
No.
kinda,
So it was a little bit more, I think their bid was 46, I added about 4,000 for the additional risers, looking at the other bids. So it brought it up to, 50 for an even number, and then the city's portion of the road crossing, the road repair was 17,000 on engineering estimates. And that was reduced because we removed a lot of the costs that we would see on a contractor. So then I just totaled those together and split that cost in half. So that brought the county's portion to 33.5. So the city would be on the hook for 16.5 to your contractor. And they approved that, and then the road crossing, and then the site restoration and seeding. Which we didn't even include that in any of the costs, we're just gonna do it that way. Because we gotta let it settle and then come back instead of paying a contractor, come back and re-level things and seed it.
Yeah.
City's got the equipment right here in town, it's readily available,
where does it cross under the road?
at 8th Street, or no,
By the.
west of 8th Street, there's that large ditch you'll see that's just
Goes
half a block from the Marathon gas station. It crosses underneath there and goes in that large ditch that runs all the way over to Sheridan.
what shape is that culvert thing?
It's in pretty good shape. Unfortunately, it's also flat, because we were actually looked at a project of changing the elevation, at 8th Street with that culvert going deeper to be able to get that a little more fall, but unfortunately with some conflicting sewers and
Yeah.
it's just that you can't change the elevation. I don't know if you want to point out the higher bids, which we saw with 175,000 on this project.
Why so much difference?
Contractors, how they're gonna install it. You got one that has a tile machine versus one want to do an open cut.
It's not because one missed something and
No, I think it's just how they're doing the work.
big difference.
And one that we see inflated prices on a lot of their work.
Don't really want to do the job.
Well, no, they don't think there's anybody bidding against them. We're seeing that with a lot of our projects. It helps to have multiple bids. Yeah. And like we said earlier, Hendricks, they were the only ones, I think they brought 3 or 4 guys out and we walked it. So they're 100% familiar with what we're doing and looking for
They've
here.
actually got boots on the ground looking at it.
Exactly. They actually invested some time, so I was pretty impressed with that and their price coming in where it did.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I guess we start with, well, is there any other discussion? I mean, we got bids for 12-inch and 10-inch tile.
Well, do we wanna talk about where the money's coming from the county, how the county's gonna pay for this?
I was waiting for that question. To give you an idea, capital improvement fund has about 264,000 in it. County farm has about 104,000 in it, and we have a remaining total of 190,000, in ARPA. But that's with all of the approved projects so far. With the more, I don't know what other additional costs there's gonna be with the more.
What was in the farm account?
In the what?
Farm.
About 104,000.
What do we need in the farm account to keep it functional so that,
104,000.
because we have to pay bills and then get reimbursed?
Yeah, the fertilizer bill, I think last year was, Amanda, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, was it 57,000?
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Is there any money left in tribal account?
I don't think that is.
The tribal fund, there's a few thousand left in there, but not a whole lot. Like less than 10.
I thought that was strictly for maintenance of buildings.
Maintenance and buildings, of governmental services, so.
Well, I think this is a capital improvement project.
I'll make the motion to accept Hendricks's drainage proposal. I've got a number,
10 or 12-inch.
12-inch.
What's in there? Say that.
It's $46,223 is the total amount.
So who's gonna pay them? City?
Well,
Each will pay half, both.
Yeah.
Each will pay our portion, it won't be exactly half because they're doing in-kind work versus cash.
So our obligation would be around $33,500. And Watsika's obligation would be $16,500. They'll pay that directly to the tile company.
I guess I would want to put, since, I mean, you're going off of without the added risers, so,
Right. So it's
we need to include a certain amount,
a workaround,
yeah.
so another,
So what was the amount that our portion was?
well, we had 6, and if we go with another 4, we think that would probably be
Well, he thought about 1,000 each, according to some of the others, so.
You could say to include the additional cost of the risers not to exceed a certain number.
Well, the 33.5 was including the additional 4,000 in there, so I don't know.
okay.
So we just say 30, not to exceed 35 or 36 or 40 or?
I'd say 30, 34. Not to exceed 30.
We don't want to have to come back here when they're in the middle of the project.
That only gives you a $500 cushion.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're gonna take advantage of it.
Mhm.
They seem to be,
You want to just say, call it 35 even,
you think that's enough of a cushion?
and then if it's not needed, right?
Right.
And it's small enough, whatever the additional is, I'm sure the city would split any add-on change orders there, so.
John, would you include in your motion to be funded out of the capital, as a capital improvement project?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Does it need to go through finance or anything? Take money out of? No, okay.
Do you want to read that somewhat complex motion back, Amanda?
I'll try.
We tried.
So you're accepting Hendricks drainage bid for 12-inch tile totaling $46,223 to include additional costs for, I wrote that blank because I didn't hear what he said.
Floor risers.
Not to exceed $35,000 to be funded from the capital improvement fund.
Think you got it all?
You need to add anything for the city side in that statement.
Maybe that's a separate motion.
Okay, so that's a motion that we'll take a vote on that.
Wait a second.
Oh, you decide.
Oh, I thought also.
Oh, you did, so you did, okay. She didn't carry it.
Bowers,
Yes.
Benz,
Yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
Zumwalt,
Yes.
Barons,
Okay, then we want motion for the inclusion of the city and pending a intergovernmental agreement with the city or whatever.
I'll make a motion that go in partnership with the city. They have the cost of the 12-inch tile. Our portion of the crossing. And the intergovernmental agreement. Maintenance of the crossing, of Waseca, and the rest of tile will be maintained by
Okay,
the county.
just pending an intergovernmental agreement. And all the details of that can be put into the agreement. Otherwise, she'll have a motion more than the agreement.
And we can sit down and do like bullet points and Jim can put it in paragraph form, like.
Jim will help us write that, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he's.
Write the agreement
Yeah,
between the city.
well, if we give him the points, we want
Yeah.
included in the agreement.
And we'll send it to their lawyer to approve it. That way the lawyers all get paid.
Can't leave them out.
We got to get them paid.
Okay, was there a second on that motion? Or would you like to hear it read back?
Could we hear it? Yes. I know it's long, but you can shorten it up.
Made a motion to enter into a partnership with the city of Waseca to pay half the cost of the 12-inch tile project pending approval of an intergovernmental agreement.
There we go. For maintenance.
Yeah, it can be maintenance and the actual project.
Future
You don't-
maintenance, I think.
You don't just leave it in
Intergovernmental.
intergovernmental agreement,
Don't put
and
any
once we
details in
write
that.
the details, then we'll work that out, yeah.
I'll second that.
Bowers,
Yes.
Benz.
Yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
Zumwalt,
Yes.
Barons,
Yes. Is there anything else we need to do on
I appreciate your time.
Thank you for coming over.
Listening to
You
me, so,
explained it well.
hopefully it opens eyes on what's going on over there for
Mhm.
everybody, so. I'm gonna excuse myself then. Thank you very much, and John, I'll wait to hear from you, okay?
Okay. From my camper.
Tractor drives
You don't
itself
steer it
anyway.
anymore, do you?
Not mine. If it does, we're afraid. You don't think.
Okay, I'm gonna keep them together.
Wait, Chris. I just woke up. Okay.
All right, maintenance supervisor report.
Ask you a question.
Oh, Chris, would you update us on the progress on the sheriff's, the deputy's room and that half door you were putting in?
Funny, you should bring that up, yeah. The deputies room project is completed. We spent about 2 weeks in there this past month and it got gutted pretty much from top to bottom. New floor, new receptacles, new blinds. We made a couple windows operable that can be opened and whatnot. So yes, that project is done. And the half door project commences this Wednesday. So by the end of this week, that project should be completed as well. So thank you for bringing that up though.
Well, thank you for your kind work, Chris. That's so wonderful to hear.
Hey. Okay, pretty much switched over to primarily cooling in all the buildings. Over here at the administrative center, the tower, had cleaned it up and moved it and switched the system over. There were no issues at all this year. Sometimes there's an issue with a contactor or something like that. No, it was pretty much smooth sailing getting things up and running over here. There was a small issue with the new heat pump in the workforce office. There was a wiring issue that they came back and remedied for me when they installed, when they switched it over to cooling, it was blowing hot air out. It was like 87 in their office and they said, I don't think the AC is working, and they weren't lying. Over the courthouse, there was a small issue. I have a flow switch that's giving me an issue over there, so I have another one over. I'll take care of that here, hopefully coming this month. Sheriff had 2 infrared cameras. He had BT Video come and install 2 infrared cameras and an Ethernet switch over at the jail. There was 2 older cameras that went kaput, and he had that done. Otis Elevator, they came on the 28th of last month and did their elevator inspection. They had the state inspector with them, and everything checked out good. There were no issues with anything, so good for another year there. Animal control, no issues over there. I had to mow it 4 times last month because all this nice grass growing weather we're having. Over here, this coming month will be a full filter swap out. Those big 4-inch filters, I only change them a couple of times a year because they're a higher capacity. I usually do it in the spring and in the fall. Most of them are in the hallway, but the ones in the USDA, they're considerable ways up in the ceiling, and I have to bring a pretty big step ladder in there, so I usually come do that over a weekend. Takes a couple hours, and then I don't have to get in anybody's way, and it just is easier for everyone that way. Did any of you happen to notice last summer when in front of the courthouse and in between the courthouse and jail where I had the rock installed, all the river stone? I'm gonna get a price over here to have some of that done. They brought in like 17 tons of river stone and they got rid of all that mulch, put down a barrier. It just looks way nicer, and we're not continuously having to spray Roundup, and it just looks a little more, I don't know, professional. Some of these areas up along the building where there's the border and then it's just weeds that grow and they need sprayed like 4 times a year. Gonna have someone come and give a price what it would cost to have that done, and then hopefully next month I'll present that to you guys and see if that's something that we'd want to go forward with. Just wanted to bring that up to you. And other than that, that's about all I have written down here. So there is before someone asks, the household cleaning supplies for the jail is pretty steep this month because of the roll towels that go in the new dispensers. There's been an issue with Steve getting those the past couple times, and they were available this last month, so I had him order me like 25 cases of them. and that will be enough for like half the year. So that's why I'm looking at it right here, it's like $1,600 for the supplies over there. That's the reason for that high price on that. But that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Were you, last month you told us about the Anarga Academy,
Yeah,
some students helping with mowing. Did that work out?
yeah, they were doing some of the property cleanup. They weren't helping with mowing or
Oh.
weed eating or anything, but yes, they did come. I know specifically on one occasion, I don't know if they came multiple times, but they did pick up a lot of, I know there's a lot more down now with the wind we've been having and stuff, but yes, they did come, and I'm not sure how many hours they got in, but yes, they were here, and it did work out.
Any other questions?
Yep.
Question on animal control building and more. More projects moving along. Currently, we have all the paperwork into us, so now it's just waiting on the yes, that. So, there's a few adjustments. The plumber is going to get us pricing on text instead of copper, little things like that. The heating guy might do something a little different with the ductwork, so they're getting us adjusted pricing on some of those to see, get approval on that.
When do you expect for that?
It depends on when we get the permit, but,
We would anticipate it.
this month, later in the month. Yes. Weather permitting.
Of course. And that's a big if.
I don't know if there's anything else on the board that we need to discuss. Doesn't look like it, so animal control building, I have not heard anything as to when he would be ready to start that project. Now, for a project like that, do you need to get a building permit also? For a pad and put up a fence?
I think,
I would think so.
Some places you need for fencing, others you don't. The pad we probably would.
I think we do enough for you. It's at least certainly a question, and he'll probably know he'll do that. But we have to keep it in.
What is how to ask?
Are there any questions on anything?
Do you think we should have a little ceremony, like that'd be when it got groundbreaking, because, well, there's an individual, well, no, it's just, you know what I'm talking about? Thinks it's a,
If we want to have a grand opening ceremony, I would rather do that.
I was sort of just kidding, Lyle.
So, all right. We'll move on to county farm management issues. So we got a letter from Rosen Appraisal Services. The way I read it, basically they're going to be doing a road project out past the farm ground. And because of that, they'll survey and it won't, I don't think it's gonna affect actual farm ground, but since the property goes to the center of the road, they're including us in it. If somebody wants to be there when they do the drive-by or whatever. Basically, they're doing an improvement on the road going out that way.
So it's well within their
Maps and
reason.
stuff.
Is this new road they're building out of the Martin subdivision, that's happening?
Well, they're looking at it, yes.
Someone come observe.
The way I read it, they're just gonna basically drive past and look at it, so. You know, you might take half a day off to go be with them, it's just a 5-minute thing. Anybody have any objections to it?
If they're gonna do a drive-by inspection, you can't really object to that.
Right, but the project as a whole,
Yeah.
which I don't know that, you know, they're just improving the road that's there. They're not, are they adding another road? As far as you know?
Doesn't explain it very well.
Yeah,
It has to do with the Martin Avenue extension.
right.
In order to get that put in there and being in a floodplain and so forth, they have to put some kind of a retention pond in. I commented or suggested one possibility might be to make a retention pond in the area that used to be an airfield out there on our farm ground that we, the part that we don't use.
That won't work for a retention pond because it's constantly holding
I
water.
made that suggestion and that's what they're looking at, that's all.
Yeah, I've been out there, even when it's dry in the summertime, there's swamp out there. So it won't give you any water holding capacity other than what's already there. So I don't know why we would have to supply a water retention for someone else's property. You know, they should just figure that into the subdivision. That's what most subdivisions do, they just,
Set aside some of the land and.
Yeah.
That's big.
And make sure your tile's big enough when you build it.
Yeah.
And you got enough drains and risers, whatever, do it now. Not later.
about a half,
Mm-mm.
not 1 foot on.
Are we still, on target to put it out for bid in July?
What?
The county farm,
Yes,
well, then they'll do bids in all.
that would be planned. That, the last was sent out to everybody. Did anybody have any additions or corrections? That gets sent to everybody?
I got it.
Okay.
We were also gonna do the, soil testing, put that out for bid at the same time, I think, was the discussion.
Yeah.
Kill two birds with one stone
But if anybody had any
on the lease.
comments on the lease changes or anything, that's why that was sent for people to look it over now instead of when we should be sending it out.
I think it would be helpful to include FSA maps in the bid packet when they request them.
We should have some yield totals now. We did not have them. They have been submitted for at least a few of the years.
Yeah,
That would be helpful for people wanting to bid.
yes. Yield data.
Anything else you can think of?
I just, would like to figure out, maybe new ways we can advertise, get more bidders,
Oh,
We-
and I agree.
Yeah.
We got somebody that wants to comment, go ahead.
I can wait, because I'm gonna sort of take a left turn here.
So for the road that's gonna be done, do we have any tile that goes underneath the road?
It's not gonna be on our property.
Right, but does it affect anybody's tile
Uh,
underneath or connecting to ours?
I don't know if anybody has any maps of the 12 tiles that were previous. We should have a map of what was just done, but that's nowhere near. Yeah, keeping maps was not something that was done real well.
But we've set that up, we have a system in place now, right?
Going forward, yes.
So I was gonna turn left here on the issue of advertising that.
Yeah.
And Amanda, we talked about the Facebook page and the block there was whose phone number to get it attached to, right?
Right. So right now, I started the creation of the Facebook page tied to my Facebook. Wasn't 100% comfortable with that, but that's where it's at. I can see it, nobody else can see it, so I don't know what I was doing. I talked with Scott Anderson, who handles the EMA page, and then I talked a little bit with Eric Lindsay, who handles the health department.
Well, what are theirs tied to?
Theirs. It was recommended, and I had Ari like do this for me, created an email address that's just county Facebook, something at iroquoiscounty.net, whatever.
Yeah.
And then he thought I could just create a Facebook using that email address, and then it's not tied to me.
Right.
When I try to do that, I get an error saying, like, business account cannot be set up at this time.
Okay, so I was wondering, and there might be a simple answer that I've not thought to here. You have to tie that to a phone number, don't you? Do you also have to use a phone number
I think it's phone number or email
or
address.
email?
So that's why I had Ari Wide create a separate email, so then it's not my email address,
Right.
it's a separate, and that's not allowing me to create the Facebook page using
See, I
that.
was wondering, well, if we had to use a phone, can the county purchase a burner phone that simply sits in the,
Right, no, I think it has to have an email
it
address.
has to have an email?
It's a way for you to confirm if there's login issues.
Sure. So do you think Area Wide, are you continuing to pursue that with Area Wide?
When Adam has time, I know our Facebook page isn't his
Priority.
priority, so when he has time, we, discuss other options. I think the last option, like he said, was creating this email address. So now I can come back to him and say, okay, that's not working, maybe we need to go back and use my account again.
Well, I really think that,
But I don't think it would be a problem to have it up before and put out for bid.
thank you for that update. The other thing is, could we send out what I'll call a press release and have it announced on the radio stations? Wiki, WGF, the radio stations.
Yeah.
Yes, I think.
Are there farm pages that we could post on the Farm Bureau page? Would they allow something like that?
I could ask.
Um,
And also, the FSA, they had a, update.
Really? Where you get an email?
Yeah, from the FSA.
That would, if they're sending out emails, that would be a huge, if it's allowed,
Yes,
database for that would just about encompass, I would think, owners and absent landlords and,
we could,
oh, that would be a wonderful avenue. I don't know, though, are they gonna say, well, if we put the county out, we got, that sets a precedent, we have to do it for everybody. But it's certainly a question worth asking.
yeah.
And of course, we put it on our county website.
I see auctions are showing up at Spirit. That newspaper that comes out. Plus $80, I think.
And I can't tell you the last time I put my hands on a copy of the Spirit, or I even saw one. My hands on, yeah. You get it in the mail?
Yeah.
Spirit used to be, you know.
Maybe published in the Times, it automatically goes to the Spirit.
I'm trying to think what other publications there even are in that. Let's see, there's the Advocate in Clifton, there's the Gilman Star, Paxton, oh yeah, Cissna Park,
Paxton's 40 hours.
yeah, I know. That's it, isn't it?
There's nothing up that way that I'm aware of. Just be if there was something.
There's nothing in Milford anymore.
I'll ask about the FSA.
Thank you, John.
That would be something, you know, when we get social media up and going, we don't have to wait until July and start putting out that, you know,
Correct.
bid packets will be going out in July, and we're interested.
And then, you know, the way that works is if I would share it to my page and my friends saw it and they shared it somewhere, that, you know, you just get exposure.
Anybody got anything else on property? FSA lease. Bill, are you able to find FSA lease? Now, I know it's not what I asked you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not me yet. But yes, we have an FSA lease.
No. For the increase that we had.
Well, when we last did the administrative building rental increases, it was 22%.
Okay.
That they went up, because
You-
we went from 9%, or I'm sorry, we went from $9 a square foot to $11 per square foot. And it's basically utility costs that were driving that up.
Can you, how hard is it for you to go back 10 years? See what the percentage was?
Oh, yeah. Let me look real quick, not hard.
I sort of
If
have
it's
a,
there, I didn't do it 10 years ago.
there's a little bell going off in the back of my head that says, we're 10 years ago that it didn't matter what we did, increase with the rest of the building, we negotiate with the FSA
The FSA
on separately, it's a different ball of
But-
wax.
If in the last 10 years we've increased by 30%, then it would make sense to say
It's a point to discuss.
everybody else has gone up 30%. Because they're wanting to negotiate, but they haven't told us what they're expecting from us.
Is that what your letter said?
Not much. Basically, good morning, we'd like to know how much you want, so we can start negotiating. Well, that's just it. They haven't,
Define negotiate.
right, they haven't said what they want yet. They want a price before they say, you know, what changes they may want.
Well, that's a little,
If they even want any changes, maybe they won't want any changes.
so is that our, we hate to open that can of worms, but. Oh, so we could be vague and kind of general.
So if we say, this is what we would like, because it's in line with what we've done over the last 10 years, we have increased other renters by this much. Then they can come back and say, well, that's kind of high, you know, we can always come down.
So don't go anywhere near this, just
Not yet.
not yet, don't bring this, don't open this can of worms.
So over the last 10-year, lease life, it was estimated at a 15% increase in, cost for the services and, utilities. So, they looked at a 15% increase.
What is square foot now? Or what is what are they paying per square foot now? Or,
The square foot of FSA?
well, yeah, what are they paying now?
Oh, they're paying,
I guess that would be the,
is that?
okay.
That's why she's got that little thing back there.
Never found to have a photograph. They pay, $5,769 and 27 cents a month. So they pay. Yeah, $69,231.24 a year. Times 10, they paid us $692,000.
So 15% increase would be.
That would put it at $796,159.
Say that again.
$796,159 for the next 10 years.
But do we want to try and not go, I don't think we'll get anywhere with a 10-year lease, maybe we wanted to do 5? Or is this a case where a longer lease is, I don't know.
Because of how it has to be negotiated and everything, it might be just as well to do the 10-year lease again. I don't know if it was negotiated a 10-year lease before because that's their standard practice, or if it's because that was the way that we could recoup our costs on remodeling that was done last time.
Well, I don't recall either, but that's a long time to, would you do that with the farm lease? Probably not. You know, that's what I'm thinking. We've got a lot of, just due to life happening, you know, utilities go up.
Yeah.
You know,
Are you suspecting the government might not be able to pay us?
oh, that's a question I hear a lot of people ask.
Does 15% kind of keep even with the cost of our increases?
No.
No. It was projected 22%, for until 2025 for the increases to go up in as far as utilities and services go.
22%.
So it's done this with our
Well,
costs.
yeah, just like everything else has done this over the last few years, yeah. If you went 25% above what they're paying now, they would go from approximately, $5,800 a month to $7,200 a month. That's at 25%.
Well, we're still negotiating, so we're,
Right.
I think we ought to throw it out there, you know?
If you wanted to end it at around 20%, yeah, you could throw in 25%.
Unless they start throwing demands, then we'll go up. If they say, well, but we need this done and that done.
But first we have to be able to get them to give us some attention.
Well, and we are starting to get, you know, now we actually have a contact person that we're dealing with.
And Jill, tell me again, does that lease expire in September?
The end of August.
End of August?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, the end of September. I was looking at volunteer services.
I don't think 25%.
The world rate today,
For
For
10 years.
lease,
Yeah.
You know, what makes me sad about that though is, and I don't think it's, I agree, is at the bottom of the barrel, all of us in this room are contributing to the FSA paying $7,200 a month for rent, you know? We are the tenant and the landlord at the same time. And I don't know, that's eye-opening to me that an office would cost $7,200 a month.
I guess the question would be, you know, you said about doing a shorter lease because of cost, is there a way to structure it where,
Incremental increases.
yeah, a 25% increase now with 3 or 4% increase every year thereafter?
For 5 years.
Well, for the length of the
Term of
lease,
the lease.
that way, if things do just skyrocket, we're at least covering some of it with increases.
I think that's reasonable.
We use a consumer price index.
We could do that too, that way if it is, you know, like we had a couple years ago where it was over 10% inflation.
So we're at the point where you would respond to that with, we'd like to do a shorter term lease, incremental increases beginning the first year at 25% and see where that takes us, right?
I don't know if we need a shorter lease, but incremental increases during the.
Covers that. Okay. I'm okay if we go with that, but 10 years is a long time to go with the lease with a fixed
But if you got the
price.
CPI index in there, you got yourself pretty well covered, I think.
What does our financial person think of this idea?
I understand what you're saying, but I also, with the consumer price index, I'm a little concerned about that. Do we decrease their rent if it lowers?
That's another thing.
Do you know what I mean? I would be more comfortable doing a set percentage over 10 years. It's a lot less complicated. Unless you included some sort of table in there, but I just think it's a lot less complicated if you set a percentage over the 10 years versus trying to use the consumer price index. And plus, we don't know where we're gonna be in 10 years. As far as with renters and income and things like that, then you'll be guaranteed that money for 10 years.
What percentage do you think would be reasonable with the way things are now, not knowing? I know you left the crystal ball back in the office, so.
I know. You know, based off of what we did for increases for other renters and what the projections are looking like, I would say 25%.
Now, but going forward yearly.
I would do, right now, if they're set at, this is what they pay per month. So if you do 25% above that, you're gonna be at $7,211.59 a month, which is almost 900,000 a year. No, I'm sorry, 900,000 over the 10-year lease.
Okay, so you think that would cover us good enough on our increased expenses over the next 10 years? Hopefully.
Yes, off of, you know, previous projections, yes.
I mean, we're not approving anything, we're just
That's your
starting
starting
the
point.
process, so I don't know that we need a motion for it.
But you wanna respond to that and send him
Right.
something.
Yes, but do we need a motion to respond to it? He doesn't think so.
Are you doing the negotiating or?
It's going through Amanda.
Okay.
So list the things that we're gonna do again, what that we're gonna ask.
We're just gonna ask for a 25% increase.
And
For 10 years. With no incremental,
Correct. Just a straight out, this much of an
But you
increase.
could do something like the CPI, say if it goes above 3%, then we tag it on for the next year. Yeah. But that'll cover you on the downside too.
Well,
But that's just an idea.
yeah, I think Jill wanted to keep the contract as simple as possible.
Okay.
well, we have taken a hit in the last 10 years when we did have an incredible spike in the costs.
I think for now, we'll just, you have what we're gonna do, you can respond to them with that. See what they come back with. All right, so we'll move on to claims.
I'll make the motion to accept. Yeah.
Bowers,
Yes.
Spence,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
Seymour,
Yes.
Barons,
Any old business? New business?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll do that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Thank you.